Hey everyone, before I get started, I just want to remind you that if you like my content, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and then join the Militiaman and Crew Patreon community by clicking the link in the caption. Hey, good evening everybody, Militiaman and Crew here. It's Friday afternoon. I hope everybody's having a great day. Gearing up for a holiday weekend. Look, everybody, I know that travel, camping, all those things, whatever you guys do, go to the beach, whatever. I don't think anybody's going surfing or anything, or not, skiing, snow skiing at this time here in the United States. But anyway, surfing, a different story. My favorite time to surf was August, September, because the water warms up in Southern California, and we have the hurricanes that sometimes come off of Mexico and in the Pacific, or even the tropical storms. It creates an environment that's it's fabulous. Fishing gets good, all that stuff. Fabulous time of my life that I enjoy. But here where I live in the Northwest, we have usually clear skies. Tonight's the festivities for flying some balloons. They come into the town and they light them up. And, that's a lot of fun. It's just fun stuff for the summer. Everybody knows that. So everybody, we've been doing the Dinar work for a long time. We're going to add some new things. I think I'm going to do like a trial basis with adding some more information that I'm finding interesting. You guys all know that I've been interested in the past. I don't really go public with it, but I have followed the gold market, silver markets, metals and stuff for many, many years, decades actually. But the point is that my passion at this stage of the game, why I do Militiaman and Crew, has been because of the Iraqi dinar, and we keep it pretty simple that way. However, times are changing, and so people need to pay attention, and there's going to be opportunities. And so to get information, because that's what Militiaman and Crew are here for, is to give information, and you guys can decide whether you like that information or not, of course, and use it for your own purposes, because we're not a financial basis. We're not attorneys. We're not any of that. Okay, no legal advice. So we try to keep it simple, and we're not really ever being political. It's even in our country or other countries. When it pertains to Iraq in my room, I do so. So we don't get too involved in all that, because all of us are here for an investment, and is it going to benefit us? And that's equality. That's for everybody. So keep that in mind. But listen, article today. Let's see. What was it? Sudanese? Yeah. Okay. So we had an article that comes out, and Al Sudani's advisor rules out removing 3 zeros from the currency. So the context of that article is like a lot of people were kind of maybe jumping off the fence over that, but ultimately what Soleil was saying is that he was not lying, is that the government isn't looking to remove the zeros, but it's not the government's job, so he's not lying. So he goes on, what are they doing? He says it's rather about improving the cash payment system, so it's electronic and digital, right? And so when that happens, and you're going to see news and other things in the news, not tonight, but in Patreon, you'll see one where they talk about things happening differently digitally. So you guys can see that. He says, Soleil points out the importance of reducing the calculations that are reached in the trillions. So what we've been telling you all along is that the budget doesn't work. God bless him, rest his soul. Day Trader was one of the guys. He was one of the gentlemen that basically has studied this for many, many years, and we miss him. But he was focused in on completely, because of his background, is that 1310 will not work going into this new economy that they're going to be building and rebuilding and reconstructing. So ultimately, when they say they've reached the trillions, it is almost like impossible at this level of development, this development road project, to keep having an exchange rate at 1310 because of the, as he says, it's reached trillions. It's not easy anymore. It'll be astronomical. And I have a audio that I may put in Patreon later tonight from a man named Shah, who I've had a pleasure to meet and understand. And his background is IT, you know, artificial intelligence, all that kind of stuff. But he's excited, okay? His connections, people in Iraq are excited, and they understand that what this guy has said is a little bit deeper than he had anticipated in the beginning. He doesn't really get into it in the audio, but I do know that from conversation is that the tone is different, other than, more bullish, let's put it that way, in the trading sense, if you're, you know, up or down, okay, with what we're talking about. But when they say reached $1 trillion in recent years, he's not wrong. This is Saleh talking. It says the process of raising the 3 zeros does not only mean the value of the currency. It's not only about the value, but also the calculations and the statistics. They're a nightmare. They become a nightmare in numbers. Because could you imagine building all those freeways, all those ports, all those different things, everything, and then compound that with 1,310 000 notes? They haven't been doing it that way, everybody. They've been doing it with dollars. They've been doing that in the past. And people have always asked, why? How can you do that? Well, they've been getting oil revenues. Remember the DFI fund, the K2 or Iraq 2 fund or account? That's where they get the money. It's because of their oil sales. So you should step back a little bit, quit asking all the questions that are, if you're not paying attention, you don't know these things. It's okay, but the bottom line is that, look, they've been using a different system. Now they got a new system coming in, and that's where these guys are talking about. So the process of raising the zeros does not only mean the value of the currency, but the calculations and statistics. And what they're looking for is to do what? In order to have a method of managing it to be easy. So that's where this Delete the Zeros project comes in and creates an environment where they have smaller category notes and potentially even coins. In this particular article, they, instead of using Saleh's face or other things, I don't know if it has any importance whatsoever or not, but the fact is that they used 2 000 notes in the photograph and 2 coins, one old and one new. Okay? And so it's just it's that subliminal thing, and the people know that. Because look, the translations and stuff are really different to English. So there's inflection, there's all those little components that you have to understand. And please trust me that there's some people out there that really firmly understand it. And I think that this guy Shah is capable of doing that. So it says the process of issuing large denominations reduces the currency in terms of quantities. Okay. Large denominations, you're going to get less quantities with larger currencies because the value difference, right? Is a process of reforming the cash payments, especially since this modern advanced time requires smaller numbers, meaning smaller numbers, smaller category notes, I hope. He says Saleh believes that removing the 3 zeros from the currency globally, removing zeros from the currency globally requires 2 conditions: political stability and economic stability. Well, do they not have that? Haven't they been bragging about that? Absolutely, they have. When these 2 factors are available, countries, resort to removing zeros from their currency. Removing zeros from their currency. Do they really actually mean that? Look, I got currency in my safe. Maybe you have them at the bank or a safe deposit box, right? How are they going to remove that globally from you? They can't. Okay, so you got to think clearly, because again, people are suggesting that it's about removing the zeros from the currency and not creating value. They just click, delete, turn off. Okay, they're going to create value. He says adding the value is fixed and not affected. Rather, it's a relative change. In the country of Iraq, at first, it's going to be a relative change. It really will be. When they drop the 3 zeros, at that point, it's a relative change. But when they add a real effective exchange rate based off the oil and their non-oil revenues, which they've been focused in on. And major companies have been in Iraq helping them value the country. They don't talk too much about it. But anyway, Ernst & Young is there. They crunch numbers, okay? There's others they've told you about. If you remember the Cyan port information. International companies, when they come in, when they're international companies, they do not take well to any reputational risk. They're not going to do that. So when they come in, Ernst & Young, for instance, right? If they have reputational risk, they're not taking the job. Do they feel confident? Sure. They got a contract, remember? When? January. Okay. So I won't get into the other companies that are invested. I think, what was it, Wyman? Never mind. I won't get into it. We worked on let's see, he states that the project to delete the zeros. We worked on this back in 2011, 2012, but there was a delay in the matter. You think? Remember when Dr. Shabibi gave us the information about deletion of the zeros in that video? And there was a gentleman by the name of Blue Star that we all were aware of on the internet, because he was pretty public. Asked a question, and what he said was one of the components of the final stages is propaganda. So giving out information that isn't not quite looks to maybe not be true, but yet is true. And here's a classic example, is that Soleil basically says that the government's not going to reduce the value of the currency or remove the zeros. Forgive me, removing the zeros. But guess what? It's not their fault. I mean, not their job. It might be their fault, but it's not their job. In Patreon, I did a real long piece on it, okay? And you guys can come in and check it out. It is, it just tells us that, and I go through it methodically to tell you why, that this article is basically a good one. And it effectively tells us there's strength in what I say. And I got another article that's probably going to even support that even more. And that came out today. So let's see what happens. The Central Bank of Iraq article having an unannounced visit to Iraq. Well, this particular visit that Central Bank of Iraq had, which was the with Al-Awlaq, it was announced that he was going to be there on or around the 26th of this month of August. And also the delegation, etc., would be there. However, you guys got to pay attention to what they actually say. It says that an informed source, so they don't tell you exactly who it is. It says the Central Bank of Iraq is currently making an unannounced visit to the United States of America. Well, that's not true. And I put a snippet in my room, Patreon room with Militiaman and Crew, patreon.com, right? /MM and Crew. So you guys can come in and check that stuff out. It says a delegation of the central bank travels to the United States of America to resume negotiations on the banking sector. It says that, when will that'll happen? It says that, check it out. It says the Central Bank of Iraq will start its negotiation. Wait a minute, back up. It says that the delegation from the Central Bank of Iraq will start its negotiations with the U.S. side on the current 26th of August in America. There's an article that specifically states that Al-Awlaq would be in the United States on the 26th. My view is that if this guy is talking about unannounced again for the second time, if you guys go back a month or so ago, Iraq sent Al-Awlaq to Washington unannounced. Okay, that's true. That's what they did. Okay, and he went through that. But then he came back and things happened. That's when we started seeing the U.S. Treasury get involved, a floor of the Central Bank of Iraq's bank, all of that stuff. So, and effectively talking about taking over, helping them with their monetary reform. And we haven't seen anything to deny any of that. So it goes on to say that the Central Bank of Iraq, this delegation, will start its negotiations on the side of the current 26th August in America. It says they moved in to sign a contract with that company that I couldn't remember, is Oliver Wyman International. You guys, if you can Google it, Google the company, international company, what they do, you can see exactly that it fits in line with what Ernst & Young is doing in a different perspective, but it's international. Okay, so that's a really good way to go about it, and that was Wyman, Oliver Wyman. Okay, so check that stuff out. And then next thing we have tonight is the parliamentary satisfaction on their satisfaction on managing the investment file. It says al-Sudani's foreign visits will attract international companies. Well, al-Sudani is feeling his oats, if you will, by traveling to quite a few countries, because he's a diplomat. He has diplomacy. He has professionalism. He's a statesman, and you can see that by what he's done and accomplished since he's been in his position as prime minister. He's been around for over 18 months, going on 2 years, and he's had nothing but achievements and is well accepted, not only with his citizens, but he's well accepted in the financial world, the banking world, and the political world globally. The Parliamentary Investment Committee confirmed today, Thursday, August 29th, so this is a couple of days ago, the success of Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani in attracting investments during his foreign visits. So he spent a couple days over there in Egypt, Tunisia, etc. So one of the key points here is that they have a big interest. Iraq's interested in their own personal investment file. So Iraq will be a large and important field of work for various foreign investments during the coming period, and there will be a competition for international companies to work in Iraq, and this is certainly due to the political and security stability. That's what I want to focus in on, is because those are two components that are necessary. Those are two components that specifically Saleh talked about in the article about deletion of the zeros. When the time's right, you have to have political and security, economic stability. You have to have those things. And they're talking about it, political and security stability. They have economic stability when it comes to it and what they're expecting to do, as well as the government's interest in this file due to its great economic and urban importance for the country. So he's really focused in on the importance of it. That's big. Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani began the official visit. And where? Republic of Egypt and Republic of Tunisia. And it's basically about international developments in the region as well. So note, look, he's stating the political and security stability is in the country's best interests due to economic urban importance, as they stated. But look, attracting foreign investments is an ongoing process, and it's going to be into the future. So keep that all that in mind. The Iraqi parliament, for instance, it continues their sessions coming up. Here coming up, I think it's going to be, well, they're going to have more on Saturday, tomorrow. So there you go for that. But one of the things that they're noting is the arbitration law, and it looks like they're getting ready to have their second reading. It says the Parliament will complete the first reading of the draft law on the protection of intellectual property. But in this case, on this particular one, they say the second reading of the draft of arbitration law. Look, they're going to hammer out the arbitration law for everybody, because they're going to need to when it comes to getting the governments and investors ready for business. They want a level playing field, if you will. So this is a good article to take into consideration. Let me see. Okay, got that. Okay, on a sidebar, you guys, I don't know if you guys think this is important. A lot of people don't. And the reason why I think it's important is because I do go back into time, because you have to remember what history is. And I don't think that people realize how even short-term history is important, let alone long-term. So I hope everybody starts to decide to teach their kids about going back in time a little bit and looking at the history, People make mistakes in the history. Why would we want to make them again if we could learn from that, right? So anyway, I'm not going to get into history lessons, but I do know that that it's important to be able to go back in time, and it helps me do what I do. And I thank everybody for being with me. I thank you for all the help you guys give us. We thank you for all your support that you give us. We know that you guys all know that it takes a lot of effort. We go to the grocery store just like you here at Militiaman and Crew. We have lights on. We have computers to buy. We have insurance. We have taxes to pay. We have all that stuff. And that's why when we ask politely if you guys can help with support, it goes to help everybody. Okay, so keep that in mind. We have Zelle, we have PayPal, we have Venmo, and we just have your guys' help. That's the main thing, by being with us too in Patreon. So keep that note. Everybody's been helping, and I thank every single one of you. But here's somebody that is looking to be helped by Iraq, and he's a currency dealer, and he's arrested for what? Counterfeiting. Why is that important? They're all over the place, right? Well, not necessarily. But one thing about, if you go back in time to one of the most successful, most recent revaluation processes, was a model from Turkmenistan. We have it in a forum, so if you come into Patreon, you can search Turkmenistan, and you scroll down until you find the articles talking about what I just mentioned. Okay, so Turkmenistan, I'm going to get into that in a second. But basically, this guy was stole or counterfeited and was caught with 3,050,000 dinars in denomination of 50,000s and 2,800,000 dinars in denominations of 25,000s, in addition to a $100 bill, US, seized in his possession. Not a whole lot. What's the point? The country, at a time of revaluation, a country that's about to do something, takes it really, really serious. And they try to do it in a manner that gets everybody involved. Citizens, merchants, businesses, everybody, okay, involved. Because why? Because it's going to support the country. So if somebody's out faking money, stealing from people to benefit, it's not going to do you any favors or any good. So taking it serious about counterfeiting is important during a revaluation. And I got some snippets here that say, look, the total and orderly overhaul of Turkmenistan's currency system in 2008 and 2009 in many respects serves as a model for other countries. That's just a snippet, but that's what Iraq is likely to be doing. And so some of these snippets, it basically states that eventually the general public, the business community, and politicians may start pressing for currency reform and the introduction of a new currency. We just saw that yesterday, day before. I completely talked about it. It's because the experts, right? Soleil is suggesting we're not going to do this. Oh no, I did it even today. In that article, he's specifically stating that, he invokes experts are calling for deletion of the zeros project. Okay, so here it is. It's in writing. This was back in 2008, 2009, and this is part of that model. That article specifically states just that. I won't dig through the paperwork, but I'll, if I can, I might catch it before I leave you guys tonight. Central bank must assess the extent to which counterfeit banknotes circulate. Together with the Ministry of Finance and the commercial banks, it should formulate a relative strategy to avoid an increase in counterfeit currency during the critical implementation stages of a currency reform. I would say we're in that stage where it's critical. I think it's because we are at the end. Hence, the gentleman, and they're putting pressure on not only the counterfeiters and money launderers, but they're also the black market, the parallel market. Okay, so it's been ongoing. It's been in the news for quite a long time. So this is not new. So it's a delicate balance must be struck between the providing sufficient public information and the need for confidentiality to avoid releasing clues to counterfeiters that could be used to undermine the integrity of the new currency. Okay, so the information campaign should encourage people to deposit their cash currency in accounts at banks. And second most important point of the public education campaign is timely information on the stages of the currency reform to discourage a run on banks and temporary liquidity problems. So basically all of those things have been in place for quite some time and been underway under our nose, but if you haven't been focused in on it, it's a good reminder to go back into the past and say, where are we in the model? Well, final stages is what it looks like, okay? Hey, on to another note, you guys. They've talked about Iraq as being a tourism place, destination. Well, they have a lot of cultural venues, religious venues, all kinds of things that happen in Iraq annually. And that's going to go on perpetuity because of pilgrimages and all that stuff. As the children grow up, they do that, and so it's going to be a flow constantly. Iraq is going to, tap that keg, which is non-oil resources. So, interestingly enough, one of those things is destinations for tourism. Wonderful article out by Dear Sampson today, who happens to be in Australia. It is Iraq among most popular tourist destinations for Australians. So the Australians between the ages of 50 and 70 happen to be one of the biggest groups of people coming to Iraq to get acquainted with their ancient history. And there are probably going to be a lot of people from Europe, a lot of people from the United States, a lot of people from all over the world are going to go there. Why? Because they have security and stability. If it's safe for Americans to show up and they suggest that it's a very good environment, a lot of Americans would come over. Is it safe for Australians? Maybe so. Maybe they're not really part of why people aren't safe, right? Depending on the circumstances. But you're going to see though that the ancient city of Ur, the United States gave back, I think it was like 30,000 artifacts in just one lump. There's probably been a lot more than that. So that's pretty cool. Basically, tourists are looking for authentic experiences that are different from traditional destinations, and Iraq offers them with a very big distinction. In 2023, this particular person, I visited Iraq myself, explored the ancient Sumerian city of Ur, which proved that Iraq is the cradle of human civilization and that history in this country is amazing by all standards. I would say that you're probably going to be right in that respect, and with the Development Road project, will they enhance it to make it a very pleasurable experience to experience? I would bet so. And when it comes to tourism, countries tend to create an environment because of that revenue stream. They protect it. You can get examples of Mexico, for instance. They do that. Different countries of the world, because they have some volatility, but when it comes down to it, the tourism where people come to spend money on a regular basis, and it's part of their economy, and it's a root part of their economy, they tend to make sure that everybody's safe and sound, and they take it seriously, which is good. So anyway, moving on, new horizons of cooperation. So here, kind of a full circle, the Prime Minister visits Tunisia and Egypt. We already knew about that. But the basic thing I want to say here is, for his part, this is from Al-Sudani, the Prime Minister's advisor, or his office, Hussein Alawi, identified 3 tracks in the importance of the Prime Minister's visit to Egypt and Tunisia, which included activating Iraq's Arab strategic relations, almost sounds like reconciliation, in light of a mutual interest, the National Economic Development Plan, right? Following up on joint committees and the summit, meeting between Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani, Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, and Tunisian President Kais Saied, in addition to the meeting between the Iraqi government apparatus and the Egyptian and Tunisian government apparatus to follow up on the work of joint committees. Okay, in addition to meetings with businessmen from Egypt and Tunisia, companies, discussions about the development of the business environment, updating economic reform policies to achieve economic integration, so they're going to do stuff that's going to be integrating, and in coordination with and in developing the Iraqi economy and vital sectors. So here they have told us that they were going to be doing things that are pretty big when it comes to working together as a team. So one of the things that they talk about a few things, but particularly this part grabs my attention. It says the policy of openness in foreign policy and the emphasis on development and investment outcomes are essential part of the message of the visit of the delegation, the Iraqi delegation, led by the Prime Minister to Egypt and Tunisia, which establishes a new path for regional and international stations after 20 years of labor to establish stability in regional and international work for Iraqi foreign policy. So it's taken 20 years to get to where we are, and what are they doing? Their policy of openness in foreign policy. Emphasis is going to be on what? Development and investment outcomes, and that they are an essential part of the message of the visit of the Iraqi delegation. So they go to Tunisia and Egypt. They had to probably have delivered a message to them that Iraq is ready to open the doors and do what they said they're going to do. And so having this done at a time where they're effectively talking about the time is ripe to delete the zeros, I would love to be a fly on the wall in those meetings. Okay, but the Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani's visit to both Egypt and Tunisia represents an important station in terms of relations for those countries on the one hand and Arab relations in general. And I'm telling you that I can sense that that's a national reconciliation, and he's finishing it up. It says the visits fall within the context of productive diplomacy. I mentioned diplomacy at the beginning. That serves Iraq's interest in all fields and all levels. So al-Sudani has been taking care of business on his terms. The man's been nothing but 2024 full of achievements. And I think 2024 is going to be, before it ends, will show that they weren't lying, that 2024 was going to be al-Sudani's year of achievements. Here, this last article I have is the central bank announces that the participation of 13 Iraqi banks in foreign transfer in multiple currencies. Interesting, today, it's what, Friday? On a Friday afternoon at around 10 p.m. in Baghdad, article hits the wires, okay? Delegation of the Central Bank of Iraq in New York announced the start of the new phase of external transfers with the participation of 13 Iraqi banks in an important step aimed at enhancing the diversity of currencies and facilitating international transfers. I think you guys better come in, read this article, because if you don't get the concept of this, you're missing it. Because they're talking about facilitating international transfers. If Iraq is going to be dealing with the euro, the Chinese yuan, the Indian rupee, the UAE dirham, they're probably going to have an Article 8 compliant currency that's acceptable globally, traded on a Forex. They're going to have that. That's just my opinion of it. And I'm not the only one that has this opinion. So you guys, this is big. Why did they come out on a Friday? If you guys traded in the markets, it's really common for things to happen on Fridays. Everybody's getting ready to go where? Well, here in our country, everybody's on the freeway right now. It's Friday. Where are they going? They're going camping, they're going fishing, they're going surfing, they're going to go skydiving, they're going to go wherever they're going to be going. Those guys skydiving, I'll leave that to you guys. But anyway, the delegation stressed the determination of the scope of work of the international audit company Ernst & Young, which will review the transfers to ensure their safety. So basically, Ernst & Young is going to be auditing all the dealings with all the different currencies for Iraq. Okay, which will review the transfers to ensure their safety and compliance with international standards. Oh, so all those banks that came to America trying to get back into good grace, are they going to play by the rules and be in compliance with international standards? Well, today we see there's a gentleman that's out there that's supporting. He's got a few companies that he's got a committee trying to solicit, get them back in line, because he's going to, his situation, they're going to audit him. No, they might have Ernst & Young audit them, but it's not going to come from Parliament. Okay, so we'll see how that turns out for the gentleman. But he seems to have a pretty good bill of health. He's got some support from potentially al-Sistani, and yes, he's al-Sistani, the Grand Ayatollah. Is, I think that's how they say his name. But anyway, it says the initiative came with the framework of the Central Bank of Iraq's ongoing efforts to support economic growth and expand the horizons of international cooperation with the global markets. But to be effective, to be honest, what they even said also was the Central Bank of Iraq is to achieve the highest levels of transparency, security, and in with their external transfers to enhance confidence in the Iraqi financial system. To enhance confidence in the Iraqi financial system is going to be to have a stable currency that can be defended in the marketplace outside her borders, and dealing with those countries, dealing with those currencies outside her borders for trade with the dinar, and outside of using the dollar is going to be very important, and it's going to be a really big deal. And let's see if that holds true, you guys, because what we just went over makes for a very, kind of a knuckle biter in the dinar world to see where they go with this. So let's see what happens. But I'm pretty excited, everybody. So thank you very much for being with us. And please do me a favor, hit the subscribe button and like our content. It's always appreciated to know that you guys do. And again, last time I'll say it is that you know the venues if you'd like to help keep the channel moving forward. It's always appreciated. Thank you very much. Once again, guys, don't forget to hit that like button if you like this content, subscribe to the channel, or join us at the Militia Man and Crew Patreon community for even more exclusive content. You can also donate to this channel by hitting the links in the banner to help keep this page up and running. Your generous support is greatly appreciated, as always. Much, much appreciated. Thank you so much and have a great day.